studios of 99.1 The Hoss, two guys who like Klondike bars but aren't fanatical about it. It's the KY Sports Guys.
Hello again, everybody. It is the KY Sports Guys, the KYSportsGuys.com. Coach Jay Hurt along with the main man, the Stock Tony. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing all right, man. Not as good a producer, which is using the phone. If you go back to the old podcast days, and this is a podcast, go back to the old podcast days, I blame my large fingers on the inability to press the buttons right. With the radio station, when we're actually at the house, I have the whole mouse and can move those things around and manipulate them much easier than on a small phone or an iPad even.
Valid point that you make, and that kind of lets the cat out of the bag, so to speak, because we're not at the studios of 99.1 The Hoss. We hit Christmas on a Wednesday when we normally do our show. We hit New Year's on a Wednesday because that's how it works.
That's how it works.
And so we're 0 for 2 at a time where sports in the state of Kentucky is kind of hot. So we thought, well, let's meet up in an office. We'll just get the phone out. We'll record the Spreaker. And if anybody wants to hear our thoughts on UK U of L, UK Virginia Tech, Lynn Bowdoin, so forth and so on, Western Louisville and UK, all three win their bowl games. SEC 7-2, LSU's in the finals, Clemson, Ohio State. All these things have happened while we've been on a bit of a hiatus, not of our own choosing, nor the stations.
Yeah,
just
days off.
Exactly, timing of how it goes. So we thought we'd run a podcast. We're going to do the traditional stuff too. We have some Magical Hermes and some other things going. We do want to mention just briefly the sponsors of the show, the Old School Cafe right here in Edmond, Kentucky, Glass Thompson Insurance as well, and
the Lighthouse Restaurant. I'll just pause there. Yeah, the Lighthouse Restaurant and so forth. I was just giving you a moment. Hey, you used to remember the old podcast, thinking back, you always did all the sponsor reads, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, I was thinking you were doing them again. That's why.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know if you were pausing for dramatic effect or whatever. But
Always.
We do appreciate those folks. Just the two of us sitting in an office talking some sports and some other things that are happening in the world. First of all, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I thought you were talking to the audience at large.
Oh,
Merry
well,
Christmas, Happy New Year to you guys, too.
Hope it was a safe one and a good one, and we hope that for all the listeners. As well, we'll talk a little bit of holiday fun and maybe some confusion as we go. Confused. That's a little tease for the rest of the show. But let's start with the Cats. First of all, basketball, UK over U of L in overtime, 78-70, a tremendous college basketball game. First impressions, first thoughts on that.
Got to worry the way the Cats been playing. They're coming off a couple of losses, and we're ready. Honestly, if we'd have been able to do a show on Christmas Day or around Christmas Day, I think the Big Blue Couch was going to be out and in effect. I think people, maybe Mo or someone was actually even calling for it on Twitter. It's about time get the music playing and console each other about these losses. Everybody's ready to fire Cal. I'll say everybody, but there are people who are always hot.
It's not working anymore, the whole thing.
Cal,
and that happens almost yearly, and you've written multiple posts where you say, hey, trust Cal. And lo and behold, again, trust Cal. And understand he's starting with a brand new group. Now, that's his own choosing. I get that. And people will say, well, that's his choice, etc. But you have to be patient. I thought the Cats looked much better than I anticipated. I'm not going to lie to you. I was talking to some people, and they said, what do you think about the game? I said, I think we're going to get killed. I was that guy. I'm not embarrassed by it, nor does that mean that I'm giving up my fan card. I just thought Louisville was playing significantly better than Kentucky as it headed into that game. And credit to the people who saw otherwise and thought otherwise, and credit to Cal and the staff and to the players for taking a really good Louisville team and getting the W.
Obviously, you look at Maxey and that, but I know this is not an original thought. Thinking during the game, as I'm sure most of the Big Blue Nation was, if you get Nick Richards playing like that engaged in every game, you can easily go to the last night of the season and win the championship, because I feel like that was the difference. Maxey's going to have his nights where he has 20, 25, whatever, but Richards, his whole MO the whole time at UK has been he may not play. He may not be here that night. He may not be mentally checked in. Man, that guy was ready to play. And you get him like that in all these games coming up, especially the ones in March, you've got a team that's going to be tough.
You talk about some of the early struggles, too, and I think maybe some of us, and I'll be chief among sinners, overreacted to the Evansville loss, maybe the Utah loss, etc. Certainly not losses that you want to see, but then just about every top team has taken a loss of that nature, not just a loss, but a loss to a team that seems significantly inferior. Duke had it happen. I know it doesn't count because Coach K didn't feel well.
Yeah,
he was sick, and that probably caused the whole thing. But there have been other situations, just last night in conference play, I believe. And actually, is Colorado? I forget. The conference thing confuses me.
They're big something, maybe. I don't know. They could be
got an upset
something.
win. Exactly right. I saw where Ohio State took one on the chin to somebody that they should have probably beaten by quite a bit. So this may be the year where there's no lock, number one. There's no Duke with Zion. There's no Kentucky that's going to go 38-0 into the Final Four. There's just not that type team. And the mid-major guys on a night are obviously capable of beating some folks.
Yeah, and you talk about Duke with Zion, by the way. How'd that turn out
exactly?
For the
they didn't win it.
Didn't win it.
Didn't
even
get to the Final Four.
So
should have lost in the Sweet 16.
Really should have. So even locks in single-game samples, the three-pointer changed everything so much. Even locks in single-game samples are no longer locks.
And I think we forget sometimes, too, even the Evansvilles, the Browns, the whoever, Lehighs, and so forth and so on, they're Division I players.
Really
These guys are not slouches. If those guys showed up and played me, you, and three of our buddies, we wouldn't score.
No.
And so we forget sometimes. I know they're not UK, Duke, etc., but on a given night, those teams certainly can get it done. I think Louisville still in very good shape. I think Louisville's a very good team. I think 9 of 20, 9 of 21, something like that from the free throw line, and maybe this is a different story. But in the history of basketball, I think you have had to make free throws to try to win, and they just didn't do it. If you took that out, the whole nature of the story of college basketball would change significantly. So you have to make your free throws. Louisville did not. Kentucky, by the way, Cal's teams traditionally terrible free throw shooting teams. This team on pace to possibly set a school record.
It's amazing. You get Richards goes to the line there toward the end, makes those big ones. Shut down Wara, by the way, too, in that one where he doesn't score much. You're expecting him to get a bunch, and he doesn't. All around, it was just a really nice game from UK. And, again, you get Nick Richards showing up like that, the sky's the limit for this team.
You talk about the big blue couch and how quickly things change in the world of BBN. You go from the edge of despair in a lot of ways, and all of a sudden you get the double. You get the UK win over U of L, and then you get in perhaps the most exciting bowl game that has happened, all due respect to the Indiana-Tennessee game last night, which was an interesting game if you like football. And UK somehow comes from behind to beat Virginia Tech, and Lynn Bowden is the story in a multitude of ways. But the biggest way to me is he dominates again. They know he's going to run the football, and yet nobody can stop him.
There's something to be said and argued on both sides. Some people argue that intangibles and motivation is at its highest when you start the game, no matter what. But is there an extra gear that some people have that when you motivate them just slightly more, that there's no way you're stopping him? When he ran for that first down, he had a couple people on toward the end of the game, that final drive. He was pulling a couple of guys. He's not really built to do that, and he's doing it. When Ali catches that pass on the ground, it was a really tough pass. It's just that extra motivation. I don't know. Is there something there? Or is it just something they would have done anyway? That's an interesting question to me. I think Lynn Bowden, the most motivated player I've ever seen, with all due respect to Benny Snell, the most motivated player I've ever seen wearing blue.
Good comparison, though, because Benny always played with that edge as well. Lynn Bowden plays with an edge. It's hard to think of a rival as far as his ability to go out and play in that motivated fashion of which you speak. How ironic, poetic justice, perhaps, that they win it not on the legs of Lynn Bowden, but on the arm.
Oh, it's a beautiful pass, too.
Great play call.
Wonderful. Just a little seam right up the seam. He lobs it in there. It's perfectly thrown, perfectly caught. How often do we see that ball? I think we weren't expecting it to be dropped. Now, that's the difference. We talked about the change of attitude, the change of culture. We don't expect to lose that game anymore. We expected Lynn Bowden. We expected the other guys to make the plays, and they did.
Freddie Maggard, KSR now, who was with the team for a little while in a different capacity, but is back at KSR doing some writing and stuff. I think Freddie Maggard is the logical, sound voice of Kentucky football. I think if you want real football stuff, if that's not what our show's typically about, but if you want the real stuff, Freddie Maggard's the guy. And he basically said it's the old new Kentucky. You're right. We expect Josh Ali to beat his man, and he did. We expect Josh Ali to corral that fourth down pass. we expect Josh Ali to not drop that ball 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we would have 100% anticipated some disaster. And we're not like that anymore. Mark Ruffalo kicks a field goal. I expect him to make it. And I know kicking hasn't been the strength of this team, but my expectations still are make it. And even with some of our better kickers throughout the years, when it came down to it, my expectation was, when does Lucy pull the ball away and Charlie Brown fall on his face? That's just not the program that Kentucky is at this point. Touch briefly on some of the controversy. Virginia Tech and Kentucky got into it midweek of the bowl preparation. There were some videos out of different confrontations and so forth. Boils over a couple hours before the game. Lynn Bowden delivers a pop to the nose of a Virginia Tech guy. The people that seem to be most up in arms over this, not Kentucky fans.
No.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we've talked about this before. No matter what side you're on, if you're on, if they're your guys out there doing this, you tend to look a little differently at it than other guys. Your guys are the good guys,
and the other guys are the bad guys.
The one that punch was deserved. If it had been the other way, it wouldn't have been. I don't know. I don't know what all was said, what all happened. I don't know why the punch was delivered. He could have not, should have done it. I don't know. I can't put myself there.
It's hard to say, and I think sometimes what happens is we see things the way we see things, but we also have blinders on in our coverage. For instance, I don't have a clue of any incidents that happened with Wyoming football this year. That doesn't mean something didn't happen.
Yeah.
It just means I haven't watched one iota of Wyoming football or coverage.
Say iota?
Exactly, one iota or iota of Wyoming coverage. I don't know anything about any of these people because I don't watch them. And in an interesting way, and I think baseball has been this way for years, our coverage of sports has become so regionalized. Mm-hmm. We follow Kentucky. We might follow Louisville just as an adversary. We follow the SEC because that's who we play. I couldn't tell you. I know Nebraska didn't do well. I don't have any idea why. I don't know what's going on. Everything seems to be in a weird sort of way. Even though we have all this information, we have so much of our own that we focus on us. So, again, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know what all happened. Should he have punched the guy? Probably not. Should he have been suspended? I don't have a clue.
Well, it happened in the window before it's allowable,
Exactly.
So then the coaches have to decide. And, again, we don't know anything that goes on from Monday to
we have no
Friday
clue.
And so before Saturday's games.
I think for us, for Tim Sullivan, for Louisville fans, for anybody out nationally to make any judgments about this is really, I hate to say ridiculous, but it's silly.
I think here's the thing, and maybe this is where we differ, and not to toot our own horns a little bit, but I think if the same thing happens with Louisville, we're saying the same thing.
We are.
Yeah, we are. You and I.
Yes, the KY Sports guys are.
Yeah, we're not out to say, oh, he's wearing red, so it's obvious.
He must be awful, right? Yes, he must be
guilty.
The
guy wearing blue, not guilty.
And I think your point is backed up by the fact that of all your outlets in the world, and I know we're not a big outlet, but of all your outlets that are kind of Kentucky sports based, we probably spent the absolute least amount of time going over the myriad of sins from various other places.
Exactly.
We don't deal in that. That's not what we're here for. It's a much lighter.
And in fact,
tone.
If you go back there, I've been an advocate for I hope things turn out well there because we want that rivalry. We don't want a pushover every year. Thought the game was great. I want it to be a close game. You tune in for a fun game. Mm-hmm. Talking about the basketball game or the football game.
And the world's a better place in our eyes when everybody's doing well.
Yeah.
You want Louisville basketball to be good. You want Louisville football to be good. You want UK basketball to be good and football to be good. You want Western to be good and so forth. It's more fun for us. And we got that this bowl season. Western wins on a long field goal. Oh. Louisville comes from behind to beat Mississippi State. Kentucky in an instant classic with Lynn Bowden carrying the way over Virginia Tech. I think it's been a great bowl season and Christmas season sports-wise for the entire Bluegrass.
It really has. You talk about bowls in general, just getting away from the regionalism of it. You got your big championship game coming up. You've had some fun bowls. My biggest shocker, I think, was Auburn losing to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I always predict those SEC teams do well.
Sure.
Not a Big Ten guy, so Auburn losing to Minnesota was a big one. I thought Alabama went out and did what they were supposed to. I don't want to hear hey, they weren't into it because they weren't playing for the championship.
Right.
You go play or you lose.
Sure.
So
the results are the results.
Yeah, but I was glad they went ahead and played and won that game. It'll be interesting. I think LSU is going to be really good, but Clemson's been there before, so we'll just see. It's going to be an interesting night.
We don't do predictions for a reason. If you look at the dominance of LSU over Oklahoma, it would lead you to believe that they have a better chance. Look, Clemson was dead in the water. I'm still on the replay boat, and you and I have been here for a long time. I either want to replay it all and do it quickly and move on, or I don't want to replay stuff. And I thought the targeting probably by rule was the right call against Ohio State, but I also thought it changed the entire game. It wasn't called on the field, and it wasn't unanimous when you look through various people. Obviously, your Clemson folks wanted it, but get away from those fan bases, and you're going to get a difference of opinion in various circles of was that targeting, was that not targeting. If it's not clear and obvious and quickly done, we shouldn't reverse things. Same thing on the scoop and the score. So I did express some opinions on Twitter about those things. Do I care who won between Ohio State and Clemson? No. I have no horse in the race. I don't care. But I thought Clemson was gifted almost a return. You go in at half, down 16-0. They're about to punt, so maybe worse. I think they're done. And instead you get that 14-point roll. So Clemson's lucky to be there. Does that matter 2 weeks from now? Probably not. Clemson's good. LSU is good. Clemson's been there before. I won't make a prediction, but I do think it'll be a pretty good contest.
Talk about replay real quickly. Not only college, but the NFL had some replay that the Seattle game, Seattle-San Francisco. It affects more than them. The tangential effect of it, if you look, New Orleans.
New Orleans bites it again.
Kids losing it again. And here's my thing. In college, they go to the Birmingham, I think is right. They go to Birmingham, and people are watching on the big TV. Why in the NFL does the official have to come over and look at that little iPad? He's got the worst view of anybody. Everybody else is looking at the 65-yard screen there in that Cowboy Stadium or whatever, and he's looking at an iPad that it can't be, or Surface tablet. It can't be as good a view, and he's the one making the decision. Why can't he look at a different angle, different screen, or someone else just make the call? I have an issue with that. I would open up a can on it if we had the imaging.
I would hit the not intelligent button if we only had the imaging, but we don't, and so we're just going to have to move on from that. Your replay, do you have it?
Yes,
I'm waiting. I'm on pins and needles.
Speaking of,
I love it.
While we're there, might as well go ahead and just talk about the gaffe. Everybody missteps. Everyone misspeaks. We do it all the time. I'm sure you're going to listen to this.
Regular part of our show. Probably the most entertaining part.
Listen back to this. I'm sure we both said something that we would take back. We could. Dan Snyder, Washington's owner yesterday, comes out on the 2nd of January, wishes everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And for him, we say, all right.
Oh, Dan Snyder has to rank towards the top of ridiculous owners. Jerry Jones is right there, but at least Jones has had some success, and Snyder's had none. And happy Thanksgiving. That's and Jerry Jones. You can either get really mad at him if you're a Cowboys fan, or you can sit back and enjoy it because he's at least entertaining. Yes.
He goes on the radio. He does his rants. He's on the sideline, basically overshadowing whomever's there. Dan Snyder's just not real likable either, I don't think, and I think that's the difference. But happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Enjoy that turkey and stuffing.
While we're doing some of the fun stuff, what else do we have? I know some interesting things happened out in the world that weren't necessarily sports related.
We have Magical or Matt. For some reason, we don't have that imaging, so we'll just play a different game that's nothing like it.
In the spirit of Blue Devil basketball, we're here to ask, are you tripping?
All right, so is it tripping? Tyler Childers, who we've spoken of, I've been a big fan for almost 3 years now, wrote about him in, I think it was May or April of 2017, and have been a stan pretty much ever since. Seen him 3 times. Saw him on New Year's Eve at Pikeville with Todd Snyder, and really great show. At New Year's, he counted it down, and there was a ton, and I was there. There was a ton of confetti. It came out of everywhere, these cannons, confetti cannons. After the show, all 7,000 folks go on to wherever, home, hotel, whatever. Image a picture surfaced, I think yesterday, from the manager of the arena. I think his name's Larry Miller, showing an image of Tyler Childers with a broom in his hand, helping the cleanup crew clean up after the show. So 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever. So we were going to do magical or mad, but is that tripping or is that not tripping?
Oh, that's 100% not tripping. And what you just described, that's the thing. It's Tyler Childers is no longer the guy playing at the coffee shop in front of 5 people that aren't really listening. This guy's a star. He's making some money. He's playing the tours, the big arenas. And for him to have the humility and the wherewithal to say, hey, we made a mess. People made a mess. I'm going to help these guys. Even if it's just for a few minutes, symbolically, I think it's the message that you want to be sending. You know where I stand on modern country music. Besides the canned drum beats and the ridiculous...
where we stand, by the way. I'm behind you on this.
The ridiculous lyrics that mean nothing and are entirely superficial. I think one of the big things that I struggle with is you have people in the country genre now that probably have and I don't know their lives. I don't know their backstory, but they don't fit that mold of country, whatever that is. Whatever you believe about Childers and his genre, Americana, country, folk, whatever you want to call it, this guy's legitimate. This is a guy from Eastern Kentucky that sings about Eastern Kentucky that had probably a life that wasn't horrific, but wasn't easy.
Yeah.
A guy that could have just as easily put his guitar up and found a job in the mountains and went on about his life, but pursued a dream and went after it. And he's kept his humility enough, he's real enough, that he's willing to go out there and pick up the trash. I'm a big Don Meyer guy. I used to coach at Lipscomb, and that was his big thing. You know, everybody says please and thank you, everybody takes notes, and everybody picks up trash. And when you see that, that's when you know the character of a person.
Here's what I like about it too. Obviously, big fan. I'm not gonna stand for him if he's doing something bad or puts out some bad music or whatever. I'll probably say I don't think that's good. Not heard that yet, but and I don't know him. Just like we were talking about not knowing Lynn Bowden, for instance. But obviously, if you're a fan of him, you want to see the good things. Anyway, what I like about this is that this picture, you just got to trust Larry Miller that is Tyler Childers. It's not right up on him. It's not something that Tyler is taking a selfie of. Look at me, I'm helping clean up. It's something that, for all intents and purposes, looks like he just did it and somebody just happened to snap a picture of it. It's not I'm going to go donate my time here, let's bring a camera crew. Not saying that the time still gets donated regardless, but it looks to me like it's something he was trying to do just because he wanted to do it. His motivation was to help, not to be noticed for it. It just happened to get noticed.
Big picture, he's authentic. He seems like a good dude. I'm glad for his success. And I credit you for being there really at the beginning. Now, a lot of people are getting on board, and you got thousands of people coming out and listening to the guy. You were there the whole way, but he seems like a good dude, and that's definitely not tripping.
That is definitely not tripping. I would also go so far as to say it was magical, even though those are not.
We don't have that
the
image.
Same thing. Okay, so we're doing a bit of an abbreviated show today.
Sure, just a simple podcast.
Yeah. So next week, Wednesday, we'll have more trip-ins, more probably more not intelligence by then.
Sure.
We'll have some magical or mez. We'll have some how do you do's, but we do have a Castoff that I've been looking forward to for a long time.
It's Castoff time.
And since we're being a bit nostalgic here, you remember recording that? I remember exactly sitting there in the basement recording that and not realizing while we're doing it that the metronome was clicking in the wrong beat. We weren't paying a bit of attention to anything, as you can tell. And Jordan Dewey's throwing a little bit of deep, low harmonies on there as well.
Yeah, it was good. Good times.
All right, so this Castoff's one I've been ready for a long time. We looked up a bunch. There were so many today we had to choose from. These are Three Stooges insults.
Yes.
Mostly what mostly what Mo would have called other guys.
He was the chief insulter.
Yeah, he definitely was. I think it was his title, I believe. So Three Stooges insults. We've picked from among hundreds probably, but we took, looks like about 15. So lame brain, knucklehead, wise guy, bird brain, porcupine, dope, egghead, chowderhead, dimwit, a dodo head or brain, anything with a dodo.
Just dodo, yeah.
Dodo.
Anyway.
Ignoramus, jughead, muscle brain, nincompoop, numbskull, and imbecile. A lot of things with brains and heads, but obviously he was slapping them upside the head and jarring their brains when he did that.
And insulting their intelligence.
Exactly. So in an effort to give Coach Hurt the final pick, I'm going to let Coach Hurt go first. And a two-person cast-off. It's been a while since we've done a two-person cast-off.
I appreciate that very much. I'm excited about this, too. I do want to give a disclaimer since I didn't get to do my normal disclaimer.
Yes.
I do want to make sure everybody understands we are not encouraging you to insult others.
Or to slap them upside the head.
Don't slap them upside the head. Don't grab them by the nose, and don't do any of that stuff.
Don't run a hacksaw across their bald head and then come back with the sawed blade dulled.
Yes, correct. That's it. We hope that you are with us on that public announcement. Okay, I'm going to get rid of porcupine first, and I'll tell you why. He used it a lot, but I thought that one was geared directly at Larry and based on his looks. One of the few ones on here that's not about somebody's intelligence.
Yeah, it's Larry's the Larry haircut.
The Larry haircut. It's the porcupine.
Porcupine. Exactly. I'm going to go with dope because that is very generic to call someone a dope.
I'm with you. As we go quickly here, I'm going to get rid of Jughead. Again, I like it, but I associate it more with the Archie comics.
Do you think they maybe borrowed it from
I guarantee
the
it.
I don't know when Archie came out.
Later than the Stooges.
Later than the Stooges.
Sure,
Stooges were around for a long time before, like 30s maybe? 20s
Vaudeville act.
I'm going to next cast off this is getting tough already. I'm going to cast off Dimwit of the same, kind of the same reasons.
That one.
Yeah, but I think Dimwit gets, I'm guessing maybe it's been used a lot for other things that you don't really associate with the Stooges.
I gotcha. I'm going to get rid of Chowderhead. I like chowder.
And I like chowder too.
Clam
we don't
chowder?
eat enough chowder. This is the time of year for chowder.
Should be having some chowder.
Now, my thing has always been, why not chili, why not now? But chowder is one of those things I think
why not chowder?
Why not chowder, why not now?
Why not now?
Go ahead and do it. All right, so I'm going to next cast off. No, this is tough.
It's
I'm going to cast off Dodo.
I was going there. I was looking at that.
Yeah.
I feel like, and maybe because of the series, that Fred Flintstone almost stole that one and used it some. I don't know.
He called Barney a dodo a lot?
I feel like he did, but maybe not.
Well, did Ralph Cramden call Norton a dodo a lot? Because remember,
it's the same.
It's based on
not,
that, right?
But it is.
They borrowed.
A lot. You know, the one word from the Flintstones I remember, and I learned the word from it, was droll. Because Fred would look at Wilma and say droll, very droll. Droll. I didn't know what it meant. I had to look it up. Okay, is it my turn?
It is.
So difficult now.
It's getting into the real Three Stooges insults that you don't hear very often in other places.
It is. This one could win, but I'm still going to get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of Wise Guy.
Wise Guy.
It could have been a winner, but then I think it's morphed into kind of this mafia term. So.
Yeah, and I think this is one where Carly used that quite a bit.
Yes.
You're being a wise guy. When not maybe to the other guys, but to other people in general. Here's what we've got for a little bit of a recap. We've got lame brain, knucklehead, bird brain, egghead, ignoramus, muscle brain, nincompoop, numbskull, and imbecile. I'm going to cast off egghead because I think it's morphed into like a nerd maybe. And that's not what the Stooges were by any means.
No, and that's not what they were going for either.
Definitely not.
Okay. Now, what do you do? I know. What do you do here? I don't know.
You feel like a nincompoop here, probably.
I do. I feel like a nincompoop, but I'm not going to cast that one off. I'm going to get rid of muscle brain.
Yeah, I don't
have no
remember
reason
that one
why.
very often. Muscle brain. Lame brain, knucklehead, bird brain, ignoramus, nincompoop, numbskull, and imbecile. So far, that's what we've got left. And it is incumbent upon me to cast off. This is tough, but ignoramus.
Oh, I thought that one had a chance.
It does. It was a good one. I don't know. Ignoramus makes me think of a dinosaur.
Ink pen's run out over here. I'm having to borrow the ink pen. Okay, so we're down to lame brain, knucklehead, bird brain, nincompoop, numbskull, and imbecile. So again, I don't
think
know
of the
where to go
Stooges.
here.
Think of Moe. This is where you're at too. If you're playing at home, or in your car.
I'm going to get rid of imbecile.
Imbecile.
I don't know. That could have won too. I know.
I know. They're all good. I'm going to cast off. Bird Brain.
Okay.
Because I think these are 4 super Stooges insults among maybe 5 or 6 that were just totally Stooge insults.
I can picture Moe saying all the
Yeah.
rest of these. There's no doubt. Where do you go from here?
It's tough.
I'll get rid of Numbskull, but I could be okay with that one winning.
Then that's going to leave you the final pick. 'Cause I'm going to get Castoff. I do better when it's just two. Mm-hmm. No offense to Gunner, Gen Z Gunner, not here today, but he'll be back Wednesday. We figure so. Now did he think he even watched the Stooges? By the way,
I'd say he's seen this. He's probably heard of them. I don't know. He's kind of a nostalgic guy. Though.
He is. He might have seen the Stooges. Lame brain, knucklehead, or nincompoop. It's just
is Bird Brain gone?
Bird Brain is gone.
Okay.
Sure. I'm going to cast off knucklehead. And it's tough. It leaves you lame brain or nincompoop, which there's one of these to me that is the only time I've ever heard it is from the Stooges. So,
all right, I don't know if I'm guessing correctly. That's funny here's how I'm doing this, folks. In my head, I'm thinking back to when I was a kid, 8, 9 years old, watching the reruns at 1:30 on a snow day.
Yeah.
On WDRB channel 34 or whatever that is.
Campbellsville.
It wasn't WDRB. That's a Louisville station, but it was 34. What was that?
I can't remember. I didn't get it. I got cable, but I didn't get that one.
Oh, I didn't have cable, but I had 34.
You had it if you didn't have cable.
Yes, and there it was.
I was envious. I had 15 channels and envious of my cousin who had 3, but he had channel 34.
There you go.
Just at those times.
Because it had the old shows.
Yeah, it had those old shows on it.
I'm getting rid of nincompoop and lame brain.
I think lame brain is
that's your winner.
Is the funniest Stooge insult, and I've never heard it anywhere else.
It's not one that you hear very often.
No,
so I think that was well done and a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I've wanted to do that one for a good while now. I thought it was a perfect time to break it out.
Folks, we enjoyed that very much. Again, just a podcast, abbreviated. We had so much action. We hadn't been able to do a show. We'd missed you. We'd missed you out there, and we hope that you had missed us as well. And we wanted to take an opportunity to get our voices out there and just talk a little sports and some other fun stuff with you.
Yeah, I want to once again thank all of our sponsors, Old School Cafe, Glass Thompson Insurance, and the Lighthouse Restaurant at Sulphur Well. Want to say, come buy yourself a boatload of KY Sports Guys character T-shirts, by the way.
Yeah, but find them maybe at a new place.
Yeah,
so.
There's some new stuff we'll talk about maybe Wednesday.
Hornet Enterprises.
Or now.
Keep that thought in your mind.
Hornet
and we will detail later. But,
Details Wednesday.
You're not going to be short of shirts if you want one. We'll get you one.
Short-shirted, so to speak. No, you won't. So enjoyed it.